All right, my friends, it's Throwback Thursday once again here on Toolbox Topic Bike Showcase. Track 9000. Let's get on topic. Hey everybody, it's Thomas with Get Out Arizona, and you are watching another great episode of Toolbox Topic Bike Showcase. Now, joined once again by my co-host Brandon Van Leuven. Brandon, how the hell are you?
Doing well.
Nice.
Excited about doing old bikes again.
Oh yeah, God, this is going to be great. And we're here once again at Trek Bicycle Stores of West Phoenix in Goodyear, Arizona, because it's where the cool kids hang out. And me and Brandon, we did one of these before, and like you said, we thought it would do better. But we both decided that, you know what?
We're gonna keep plugging away at this.
There's nothing wrong with a little bit of nostalgia. And I looked at the demographic, and it's like early 30s to mid 50s are the guys and gals who watch the channel. You should appreciate the nostalgia.
They should love this shit then.
And if you don't, guys, I don't know what else to tell you. So just something wrong. Put down the Twitter or excuse me, X and Facebook and all that stuff and get with the program. Because talking about these bikes are fun. And when I teach my intro to photography class to my students, the first thing we do is we go over a brief history of photography. Because I think it's important to know where we came from and how we got to where we're at. And looking at this bike, and I mean, and this was even trick for back in the day, it's a full suspension, okay? But notice there's no dropper post. We've got some steer horns on the front.
We have 26-inch wheels.
26-inch wheels. We got the center pull brakes. We've got narrow. I don't even know how I rode those things.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Because they're 820. I
Yeah.
got a wide stance. So, and these pedals are just waiting to claim some skin from your shin.
For sure.
All right. Holler if you hear me. The na. So, on that, you know, Brandon came up with this idea. Brandon, before we go and I grab the camera and you do your transition dance, what was it? I mean, and you're just like, hey, why don't we do this and everything? What inspired you to come up with the Throwback Thursday idea?
Well, this was probably the best time of my life. I'm 19, 20, 21 years old. And at that time in the mountain biking world, it was possible to know everything. It was it was possible to work on your own stuff.
Right.
You know, it was possible to afford some of the nicer things at that point.
Right.
Can't do that anymore. Things have gotten so complicated and so blown out of proportion. It was nice to know that at that time, so around this time, you could only buy like 5 forks. You could buy, and it wasn't a matter of even buying a model of fork, it was buying the company.
Right.
You bought an Amp Research, you bought a Marzocchi, you bought a RockShox, or you bought a Trek. There were some little ones out there, but those are the ones that you knew, so those are the ones you got. Now, if you want to buy a Fox fork, well, which one do you want?
There's 10, 12 different flavors.
There's 15 of them. Which RockShox you want? There's 15 of those. So again, my simple mind back then, it was much easier to grasp everything and to be excited about everything. It was a great time. All I did was freaking ride bike and pretend to go to junior college.
Right. Dude, I love that. Pretend to go to junior college. That's a high school with ashtrays for those of you who don't know, you know, that integrated studies degree.
But it was a great time of my life. And going back to this bike, this is the very first dual suspension bike I've ever ridden. Not this exact one, but the first time I ever rode a dual suspension bike was at a Trek demo off the Ortegas in Southern California. And I rode this bike, and we'll talk about more about that in a little bit.
And you're right, and kind of going back to what Brandon had mentioned, it was a very simple time. We had LX, XT, XTR. We had just gone from index thumb shifting on top to what we have, the rapid fire shifting on the bottom and everything like that. We still had triples. There was no one by and a dish platter back here. We had a triple and, 7, 8 speeds back here. And if you were back here, if you were rocking 8 speed, you were king shit of the block. Fucking, let me tell you. So there's a lot to be said about the quote unquote good old days when it comes to something like this. And again, I think it's important to understand where we came from, how we got to where we're at, and it helps us appreciate what we have as far as modern conveniences. Disc brakes,
and it's just fun to see also
posts,
how
all the
wrong they were.
Oh yeah, Jesus Christ, dude! I'm surprised more people didn't die on these bikes. To be honest with
Seriously,
you,
no joke.
Yeah, quite a few times I went OTB. I had a quick release back here, so on the downhills I can hop off and not need
Oh,
a
you did
tool.
that. Yeah.
So I could and drop it down and then get back and bring it back up and everything like that. So a lot. There's a lot. So
Yeah.
and we'll talk about it more in subsequent episodes going forward and everything. So enough chitter chatter. I know you guys like it when we just get straight to the the T-bone portion. Forget the bread and the baked potato appetizer. So I'm gonna grab the camera. Brandon's gonna do the transition, and then we'll talk about this beautiful relic from the past.
Cool.
Now, Brandon hates the fact that I make him do it, even though we don't have to do it. But every time, it's tradition. Brandon, give us a transition.
That was a good one.
That was a good
snap
one.
to it. So a little bit of background story on this bike. I happened to find this one on Craigslist. Got it from a guy in Gilbert. I love it because it's almost completely stock. I have a few questions about it that we'll go through as far as the spec is concerned, but the paint job was in great shape. We have a little bit of fading on it. What do you expect? The bike's from 1993, but it's awesome. I think the grips are original. The tires are original. They're obviously dried out and crappy.
Right.
But it's nice to find a bike. This is Trek's very first attempt at a dual suspension bike from 1993. So to find one in this shape, the price was right, so I snagged it. Super cool.
Go.
We got this one hanging up in our vintage row up in the shop. So it's really fun to have. This is kind of what gets me excited these days. So let's start looking at the component spec on this thing. Again, the tires are original. They're super dried out and like they feel like an old eraser. But these are Trek's Control Track tires. And it did not get very good reviews. Not a great tire.
Surprise, surprise, a Bontrager Trek tire not getting good reviews.
But this is, once again, this is the very early stages of mountain biking, 1993. And so they were still trying to figure all this crap out. If you look back in the reviews, very little things got great reviews back then because they're just all trying to figure this out.
Right.
This is back in the days when Trek used all matrix wheels. This is a matrix rim. Which one is this? The single track rim. Everything had a track in it in these days.
Right.
But made by Matrix. They were decent wheels at the time. Yeah. And this one happens to be built up with a Shimano LX hub. Now, again, a simpler time. We had only, in 1993, and again, there's conflicting dates on this, but in 1993, we only had 3 mountain groups. We had LX, DX, and XT. XTR wasn't supposed to come out until 1994.
Right.
You're going to find conflicting things on the internet about that, and I'm not 100% sure. So if you know 100%, if you're from Shimano, let me know. But at this time, I believe there's only LX, DX, and XT as far as the real mountain groups were concerned. Going back to that, back here we do have the Deore DX. And this thing makes my heart swim. My very first real mountain bike was a Specialized stump jumper, full Deore DX, and I felt like I was the king of the world with that group set on there. It was a complete DX from back to front, everything. I felt like a true mountain biker then, because before that I had my Hard Rock comp, which came with Suntour XCE, which was fine. Right. Suntour was super cool, and looking back, but at the time, it wasn't cool enough for me. So getting that stump jumper with full DX was a really, really good day for me. So Deore DX, 7-speed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-speed Deore DX. And this one is a 1330, so not a big range on there. But of course, we have that triple up front that we're going to get to pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about that.
Look at this big old swing arm on here.
Oh, yeah.
Easton aluminum swing arm. This thing sucks.
Remember when they thought it was the shit, though, Brandon? There was a time.
This thing is super flexy. And you can see there's no pivots in there. Your main pivot is right here. And we all know that the further away the first pivot gets away from the hub, the worse the ride gets.
Yep.
So we'll talk more about the ride later. LX cantilever center pull brakes. At the time, they were what we knew. And that's pretty much all we had. So the cool thing that we see here, which freaked a lot of people out, Trek put this big old hole in the frame.
Yeah.
Check that out.
That's how you routed the cable,
and that
guys.
was how you routed the cable for the center pull brake, because there were no V brakes yet. There were no side pull brakes. So just so you know, inside there, people were very skeptical of that, but Trek did reinforce that hole on the inside so that it was safe and it was strong.
Right. Not like a climb bike.
Yeah, those poor things. I love those bikes, but man, they like to ding up. In the front, LX crankset on here, super cool. I remember these very, very well with a full Shimano chain ring set on there. Now, we talked about only having 30 in the back, whereas now we have 52 in the back for your low gear, but now that's coupled with a 20, I think this is a 24 tooth. Now this is a granny gear.
Right.
A lot of bikes I'll call now having a climbing gear. This was a true granny gear.
Oh, absolutely.
That was a very low gear once you got into that. Obviously, you had to know how to ride your bike at this time. You couldn't cross chain. You had more rubbing involved in this one. So you had to understand your system and know how to ride it well. But the gearing was all there. I never complained about running out of gears either way.
Yeah.
Well, with a triple up front. LX front derailleur on there, triple. That's cool. It was fine at the time. It's great. What I like about it is like everything's LX on here, and then you got that XT DX derailleur.
Right.
The reason I stuttered with XT was in the main spec, it shows that this bike was supposed to come with an XT rear derailleur, which seems kind of weird. I don't know why they would skip a whole Grupo to go from LX to XT.
Right.
It seems kind of weird. This seems logical to me that they went from LX with a DX rear derailleur.
Right.
That seems perfectly fine.
Well, and I wonder if that was for another series because remember there was like the Trek 7000, 8000, the 9000. But within those, we had sub-series depicted on what.
And you had a 92,000 or 9200, and then you had a 9500.
Right.
So things got a little convoluted, and I'm not quite sure how that all worked out. But
some
this makes sense.
Haven't changed.
This makes sense to me.
Yeah,
exactly.
Check out them pedals,
dude.
Oh,
so
man.
This is another great thing about this bike. The pedals are original. These are Trek system. Before Trek integrated Bontrager as their in-house component group, they used system, and they had system 3, 2, and 1. 3 being the least impressive, 1 being their highest end system components. This is a system 2.
With reflectors, those have
everything
reflectors.
On here, yeah. And you know what I've been meaning to? I've been meaning to put a cage and strap on here. I think it would be appropriate to have a nice plastic cage with a canvas strap. I think that would be appropriate and period correct for this bike. So I'll probably do that at some point. We're now getting towards the frame. American-made Easton aluminum. This is back when Trek did everything in the U.S. in Wisconsin. So that is pretty cool. Unfortunately, they can't do that anymore. I understand. Nope. Hopefully they'll start scaling stuff more back to the U.S. Maybe the state of things they'll have to. Who knows?
I don't want to pay friggin' $20,000 for a mountain bike, Brandon.
But at this time, it was cool to know all their bikes were USA made and using Easton aluminum. And at my fragile mind back in 1993, Easton aluminum was the shit to me. I don't know if that was true, but if you said Easton aluminum, like, that's awesome.
So, what was it like? T70, 72
all
Easton aluminum,
aircraft grade.
Yeah,
exactly. If it was Easton, to me, it was the highest end. So this one is made out of that Easton aluminum. Which kind? I have to honestly take a look at here. Which one this is? This one is called Program aluminum tubing on there. So I don't know where that falls in the real lineup of all Easton aluminum tubing, but again, if it said Easton on it, it was fine by me.
Yep, it was the shizzle.
Yep. So we're getting now to the the controversial portion of this, and it is these elastomer bumpers on here, which Trek decided to use for their suspension. It gets about 76 millimeters of suspension travel on there, but the key is it got horrible reviews.
Yeah.
There's no dampening, there's no rebound control. So once you got this thing going on a bumpy terrain, it would get behind itself and it would throw you. Yeah. I think it was compared to going down to your local bar and riding a mechanical bull. So it was pretty bad, unfortunately. But first try, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
But about 3 inches of travel there. What they were getting at was other companies at the time may have been using air or gas struts on there, but they weren't very reliable. They were high maintenance. They were tough to work on. So they wanted a little bit better ease of maintenance, or no maintenance, shall we say. And so they're using these elastomer bumpers. And they took this technology from, if you ever looked behind a big old huge semi truck, and you see those bumpers on there.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of principle that they're trying to use here.
Right.
So this one again is almost 30 years old. So I have not ever ridden this bike because I'm deathly afraid that if I get on this thing, it's going to shatter.
It's going to crumble.
It's just going to crumble.
Yeah.
So I have never ridden this bike personally. But going back to that demo day, at the time, my Specialized stump jumper was fully rigid. I don't think I had my first RockShox until like 1994 or so. So I was fully rigid. Getting on this bike, I thought the novelty of it was fun. Getting on it was kind of like being on a ride. But I remember this bike not feeling like it was going anywhere. I remember getting up and going. I was like, oh, this thing is just sagging and it's not moving whatsoever. So that was my first impression of riding this dual suspension bike, was that it was fun. And it was great to take off a curb and stuff because it just went, and that was a sensation that I never had before. But it just didn't move. It just didn't want to go.
Well, the power transfer, you lost everything.
You lost everything in these guys.
Yeah.
Yep, it was pretty bad. But that's again, first try, good try.
Yep.
I think that the cable stops on here are a little interesting. They're cool. I like them. They don't have that ridge in there, so if you want to reroute, you got to pull the cable through all these, like they have. That like they came up with a little bit later, even with older bikes, but they managed to get these little nubs on there for the cable stops. I think they're kind of cool looking. They're a little special. Let's go back to this. System 1, again, original components for this almost 30-year-old bike. I have System 2 seat post on there and a System 2 saddle. Kind of a cool looking saddle, even for today's standards.
Yeah.
I think it's a comfortable saddle, and I think it looks sleek, it looks aero, I think it looks cool. And I would ride this. If I had a new one today, I would probably ride one today. I like it.
If it was white?
Maybe, yeah.
With carbon rails?
Sure, if it was white.
White with carbon rails.
That's right.
So I'm going to swing around you, Brandon, as you come towards the front of the bike.
Yeah, for sure. Going back to the frame, I love the colors on here.
Yeah.
Super retro. Purple and lime green.
It's like the Joker.
I wish, yeah.
From Batman.
Yep, I totally dig it. It matches the time period. It's great. I love it. Coming up to the frame, these are the early days of non-threaded. This might be a first year, if I'm not mistaken. It's very close anyways, of non-threaded stems, non-threaded stems and non-threaded headsets. This is a headset, which is our first one. And this was a novelty to me. It's like, how does it stay on there? Because everything before this was threaded.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's voodoo magic, Brandon.
Headset. Got these Tioga spacers on here. I don't think those are stock, but I think they're totally cool and period correct. Look at this stem. 130 millimeter stem, and it's super aggressive.
Yeah.
You will not find anything like this on any bike today. The geometries are so much different. What do our fuels have on them now? Like a 70 mil or 60 mil stem?
50.
Down to here. They're super small. They're ridiculous. So 30 millimeter System 2 stem with a System 2 handlebar on here, which is great. And what I love about this is this bike was never abused, because typically with these bar ends on here, which are also System 2, whenever you ate shit, they always bent your bars in. So there's always a little bit, there was always like a little
scratched up for the rocks and everything. Yeah.
So there's no play in these things. So it hasn't been wrecked ever too hard that it would actually bend in your aluminum handlebar. Stock cockpit, awesome. This might be a first generation of Rapid Fire Plus shifters, because along with that DX on mine, I had top mount shifters, which were changeable from index to friction shifting with the use of a knob. Now this one has that LX Rapid Fire. This was a big deal when it came out.
Huge.
I was like, what?
It was like when I went from down tube shifting on my road bike to STI shifting in the handlebars.
This was huge. This was, and I didn't get rapid fire for a very long time after I bought that stump jumper. So this bike would have been super cool. This rapid fire would have been super cool to me at the time. Coming down, we have this Trek branded. I don't know who actually made this, if Trek actually made it or it was just branded for Trek. I wouldn't know that offhand, but it is a Trek mogul fork. It is air on both sides. So it is an air fork at the time, which was cool. I remember the RockShox Mag 21 only had air on one side and a damper on this side. So I'm not sure how this feels or how it exactly works, but I do know I have air on both sides. It could be that on this one side was positive air and one side was negative air. And you can adjust the airs on both sides and make it feel more custom.
Right.
But I'll have to do a little bit more research in that. Beautiful fork crown on here. I think even for today's standards, this fork crown finish is really, really nice.
Yeah.
But you see things weren't pressed.
Right.
They are in there with pinch bolts, which is highly peculiar.
Yeah. That's what they did back then.
Yep.
I'm sure they marketed it as like, oh, you could maintenance it and you could swap it out or do this or do that.
Right. So this one, I believe they say had about 100 millimeters of travel. I highly doubt that.
Right.
It probably had closer to 85 or so of usable travel on there. Maybe the stanchion's 100 millimeters, but I doubt you were getting 100 millimeters at that time out of this fork.
It was like Barry Bonds in the asterisk at his home run record, you know, because he used steroids. This is 100 millimeters with an asterisk. It's only 60 usable.
If we can go back to it, I love how elegant the fork brace is on this one. And of course, we need that fork brace mount on there for the center pull cable routing. And then the same tire and same wheel as front with that LX front hub and a matrix rim.
Right. Pretty darn cool, right?
I love this stuff. It's cool. So that's the run through. That's about it.
All right. Give us a quick thing so we can close out.
And close out.
Nice. All right, my friends. So there you have it. The Trek 9000 full suspension, first full suspension bike from Trek.
First try.
And as Brandon was walking through this and, you know, we were pointing out everything. This is back when water bottle cages were actually still used for water bottles, by the way. The technology for the time on this was cutting edge. Trek and Specialized even back then they were the bike manufacturers. They were neck and neck in what they were doing. A couple times I alluded to Klein and joked. Klein's were beautiful bikes, but fuck, their frames would break in half all the time. It was just one of those things. Cannondale would snap off back here.
They did.
You know,
that's why we call them crack and fail.
Yeah. So, which we'll talk about more than that another. We should just do like almost like a podcast or like Throwback Thursdays where every once in a while we talk about old school shit and how it was so horrible, but we wouldn't have ridden anything else at the time. This is fun. And like Brandon, you know, that Be Still My Heart, you know, you see something like this and yes, maybe it's not as cool as a 68 RS SS Camaro, you know, or a 59 Cadillac 4-door 62 body style, but it's still cool and this is fun. That pub crawler that I have that was built from the stump jumper, you know, that I'm selling and everything, those are fun. There's a reason why we do that stuff. And yes, for whoever had this bike back then, they rode it, they loved it immensely. And this is where it started. That foundation was laid and how we moved forward to what we have now. And we could debate the virtues of some of the older technology versus what we have today on another video. But this is cool. And I'm glad that we have the opportunity to share these things with you, more importantly. For better, for worse, you know, we're going to keep on doing it and everything. And for those of you who like it, love it, whatever, comment down below if there's something you want to see us, you know, talk about, an old bike, something like that to discuss. Maybe if we can't get a hold of one, we'll definitely look one up and just, you know, talk about it in that fashion. Let us know, because that's what we do here at Get Out Arizona in the Toolbox Topic Bike Showcase realm, and now Retro Thursdays or Throwback Thursdays. So, Brandon, before we close, what else do you want to add? Anything at this point?
One thing, I always fail to mention something, but one thing I failed to mention when we're going through the frame, maybe you can do another zoom in on this.
Nope, I'm lazy. It ain't gonna happen.
I failed to point out how beautiful the welds are on this USA-made frame. I don't know how they did this. I don't know if they filed them later, but these are some of the most beautiful welds I've seen on an aluminum bike. They did it on an aluminum bike. I've seen these on steel bikes before. Yeah. I didn't know they were able to make the welds so clean on an aluminum bike. That was something I really was meaning to point out, and I didn't. And that's pretty damn cool on this. Look at that bottom bracket.
Oh, gorgeous.
Super clean.
And I almost believe that Easton Tubing, and one of the reasons why it was so popular and held in such high regard, is these were TIG welded. They weren't MIG welded. It's a different process, cleaner process, for sure.
All right, that makes sense.
If anybody knows, comment down below. Maybe if I can do some research, I might put it here in a little banner or whatever. But yes, the craftsmanship. And you can always see, like on the Specialized, the Treks, your higher end bikes, these welds were so clean, and as they got to the lower end bikes, it was like someone stacking a a row of dimes on there.
Tube.
Yeah. You get what you pay for. It happens. There's a reason why we spend so much money on the things we do. So, but yes, the craftsmanship on these was hot. 80s, 90s, man. You just weren't going to beat it. So what happened? What happened? So, all right, my friends, on that note, holy smokes, if you've made it this far, God bless you. We love you to death, and thank you for that support. I want you to hit the like, subscribe, and the bell notification icon because it helps out the channel, helps out the video. It's one of the trifectas we love so much here at Get Out Arizona, okay? Links down below. Track Bicycle Stores of West Phoenix is the most important link. If you have any questions about what you've seen today, you can comment down below, and hopefully within, I shouldn't say hopefully, we'll answer you, but within a day. Sometimes if I'm traveling, it takes longer, but we will answer you. Or you can call Brandon and his amazing team and ask your question. Now remember, related to bikes, guys, that would be kind of funny if someone did call and ask something about quantum physics or, the state of our foreign economy. I think that would be hilarious. And I'd come in and Doug's would be like, hey, Thomas, somebody called for you. How do you know? Because they were asking some stupid science question. Awesome. So, or ask Doug about bacon. He loves bacon. There'd be something
This is true.
So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the devil's work. But it's our social media. We need it to get the word out about Get Out Arizona. We do group hikes. We do group rides. So much fun. We are going to be doing some cool stuff in October. I'm going to be a week in Sedona, so there's going to be multiple group hike ride opportunities. And as the weather cools down, I know it's hard for you guys to get out sometimes on the days that I'm doing it because of your work schedules. I'm not a man of leisure, trust me, but I understand that it's difficult if you got a 9 to 5. But just keep your eyes open. We got a whole lot of stuff coming up. Amazon store, follow that link. You don't have to buy anything from our storefront, but if you use that link, when you make a purchase, we receive a small commission. You guys get a great product from Amazon. Well, I don't know about a great product. Sometimes they suck, but what are you going to do? But it helps us out with park pass money, gas money, and coffee money, the other trifecta we love so much here at Get Out Arizona. So on that note, my friends, seriously, what do we say at this point? Be kind to yourself and others. Be amazing stewards out on the trail. And we have to ask, what are you waiting for?
Get Out Arizona.
Gosh darn right. My friends, we will see you on that next adventure. Have a blessed day, everybody. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Oh, wait, shit. Brandon, we'll see you next week. And friggin',
Going off script.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, I need to stop drinking.